Hello students, how are you all? I hope your exam preparations are going very well. We are just 20 days behind the exam. I hope you are preparing very well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is CA Viresh. You are watching Virus Academy YouTube channel. We made a last video on NCLT and NCLAT provisions. In that, one of the student has commented that he needs a end-to-end coverage of winding up chapter. So the issue is that we are only just 15 to 20 days behind the exams. Now making it a complete coverage of winding up chapter end to end may be a little tough because I already have a sequence of videos which are going on for the miscellaneous areas in the corporate law. And but if you have any specific question within the winding up chapter, that's section 271 or 272 or preferential payments, about liquid related to liquidator, any specific concept related thing, I will definitely make a video for you, but making it a comprehensive video on winding up may be a little tough now. If your attempt is May 2022, then definitely you will get a video complete covering end to end all the sections with a detailed notes. Okay, yeah. Today's topic is again a miscellaneous area. This is penalty provisions. Penalty provisions section 447 and section 450. Very important for the upcoming examination. The reason is section 447 you can see reference in lot of places in the company side, and section 450 there is an amendment in your RTP for November 2021. So both sections are very important. Usually, I don't prefer to students to remember penalty provisions because there are a lot of penalty provisions were there. Okay, it is impossible for anyone to remember, but remember only those penalties which are special in nature, just like section 447, which are very special related to fraud. So this section, and wherever there is a amendment, so there are more chances of getting in the examination the amendment related portion. So these two areas only you remember. Remaining all, I would say you ignore for the examination perspective, because even if you get it in the examination, you will definitely confuse you there whether it's a imprisonment is 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. So it may confuse you. Okay. Before getting on to the provisions of Section 447, let me give you an introduction about this and what is the purpose of behind this Section 447. I will give you 1 to 2 minutes introduction, then we will get on to the penalty provision. Okay. In every section in the Companies Act, there will be already there is a penalty provisions, but there are few cases of contravention and few cases of activity which involves the fraud. Okay, the fraud may involve even the public interest to deceive the creditors, members, or the company. Okay, for those cases, and levying a normal penalty won't be suffice. Right, there should be an additional penalty and more stringent penalties and more stringent imprisonment should be there to avoid that fraud in the future. Okay, that's the reason why companies have bring out this section of section 447 section. Wherever there is a fraud is there, and most likely the penalty provisions in section 447 will be levied, and you will see the lot of places in the Companies Act reference to section 447 will be there. I included two examples only here, but there are many other examples are there where refers to this section was there. For example, one section 140 subsection 5, where auditors will be removed by the tribunal, and once he is removed, he will not be entitled to be appointed as an auditor in any company for the continuously for the period of 5 years, and he is also liable to a penalty under section 447. That is one place you will see this section, and second place where you see this section 251. If you see removal of name of the company, section 248 subsection 1 and 2 and section 248 subsection 2 is about the application or suo motu by the registrar or application to the registrar for removal of the name of the company. First, in some cases, what will happen is they will make a frivolous applications and some with fraudulent intentions to deceive the creditors, members of the company. They will just make an application to remove the name of the company, and whoever is the culprit, that according to section 251, that culprit will be levied the penalty under section 447 of the act. These two places you will see, and one more place where you will see this reference to section 447, that is about the this inspection, investigation and inquiry. In that chapter you will see this reference to section 447 very often. For example, SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, section 212, section 213 and even section 229, you will see the reference to section 447. Okay, that's about the introduction of section 447. So what was there in section 447? We will read out this section, and if you see B, the provision. What is the provision? If you see the first letters itself, you will get to know that this is an additional liability without prejudice to any liability, including repayment of debt. So already there is a penalty maybe there in the particular section. This is a additional penalty because of fraud, because of involvement of fraud. So there are two penalties will be there. If there is a original penalty in that particular section, that also will be applicable. And in addition to that, penalty under section 447 will also be applicable. Okay, including repayment of debt. Including what is meant by repayment of debt. In some cases, what will happen is, for example, a director did a fraud with the company, and he wants to repay all the fraud, all the amount which is involved in the fraud to the company back, and he wants to remove these fraud charges. Then so because these sections were inserted to avoid and prevent those kind of fraudulent acts, so repayment of the fraud amount back to the company, that didn't actually discharge him from the charges under section 447. Let's read out this provision from the starting. Without prejudice to any liability, including repayment of debt under this act or any other law for the time being in force, any person who is found to be guilty of fraud, then below penalty provisions will be applicable. So, what are the penalty provisions? And there are two categories here. If you can see the point number one and point number two, I divided into two parts. Okay, for the simplification of this provision. So, the category one, that is point number one, we are talking about. That includes if the amount of fraud involves at least 10 lakhs or 1% of the turnover of the company, whichever is less. Okay, let me repeat again. If the amount of fraud involves at least 10 lakhs or 1% of the turnover of the company, amount of fraud is about 10 lakhs or about 10 lakhs or at least or 1% of the turnover of the company, whichever is less. If this condition is satisfied, then penalty applicable will be in the point number one. What is there in point number one? The point number one, if you see the penalty, 100 to 300% of amount of fraud. The minimum fraud will be, suppose, for example, if the fraud amount is around 12 lakhs, the minimum penalty that will be levied is 12 lakhs. And it may go to 300%, that means 36 lakhs. 36 lakh penalty, it may go till 300% of the penalty amount. Sorry, 300% of the fraud amount. Okay, 100 to 300% of the amount of fraud. And the word used is and here, not or. This is a and. Okay, and jail, that is imprisonment. Imprisonment how much? 6 months to 10 years. Minimum 6 months lagega, and 10 years maximum. Okay, so in some cases there will be a public interest will be involved. If the public interest is involved and public at large was affected or whether members were affected, if there is a public interest is involved, then this imprisonment may go till from 6 months period to minimum 3 years. If the public interest is involved, minimum 3 years. If there is no public interest involved, minimum 6 months jail will be there. Okay, that's about. This is when the amount of fraud is at least 10 lakhs or 1% of the turnover, whichever is less. What if the amount of fraud is less than 10 lakhs or less than 1% of the turnover? In that case, then point number two penalty will be applicable. There is a one more condition. It should be less than amount of fraud is less than 10 lakhs and less than 1% of the turnover of the company, and there should be no public interest involved. This is very important point. There should be no public interest. If these three conditions are satisfied, then penalty will be levied under this point number two. So what is the penalty? Penalty which may extend to 50 lakhs. So there will be a 50 lakhs penalty will be there up to 50 lakhs. It may extend to the maximum ceiling limit for the penalty is 50 lakhs in this. Okay, and the imprisonment may extend up to 5 years. It may be anything under 5 years, but it didn't cross 5 years imprisonment. Okay, let's quickly revise again. Okay, the penalty provisions. Penalty provisions. What are the categories in the penalty? I divided this penalty provision into two parts. One is amount of fraud involved is at least 10 lakhs or 1% of the turnover of the company, whichever is less. And second category is amount of fraud involves less than 10 lakhs or less than 1% of the turnover of the company, and it doesn't involve the public interest. If the condition A is satisfied, then the penalty will be like this one. What is that? 100 to 300% of amount of fraud, that is the fine, and 6 months to 10 years may extend to 10 years of imprisonment. Okay, so in case of public interest is involved, this 6 months time period will be extended to will be 3 years. That means if the public interest is involved, the minimum imprisonment will be 3 years. Okay, that is condition A satisfied. Condition number B, that is point number two. If condition B is satisfied, then point number two penalty will be applicable. What is the point number two penalty? The maximum penalty that can be levied is extended up to 50 lakhs, and the imprisonment will be extended up to 5 years. I hope you understand the penalty provisions. Now I am moving on, and I created two scenarios here. This is for your exercise, and you can go through. This document is available in the description box. Okay, you can free document download it for free. And I'm going on to the next part of the section 447, that is definitions part, which is also very important. There is a question already asked in the examination, and as well as study material also this question was there. So this definitions part also very important. We have used this word fraud in many places in this document. So what exactly the fraud is related to section 447? That is related to the more important points here. Actually, this is all one paragraph only. If you see the definition in your study material, the definition is like this. It's a single paragraph. But just for simplification, I put it like this. Okay. What is fraud? The fraud should be related to the affairs of the company. If you see affairs of a company, yes, obviously it should be related to the affairs of the company. It should be impact either by the company or the shareholders, creditors, members. Anyone should be might have impacted with the act of fraud. Okay. What involves fraud? Any omission, concealment, abuse of position, any fact, and any misleading of the fact. All these will be part of the this content under the action of fraud. Okay. First, it should affairs of the company includes any act, omission, concealment, any fact or abuse of position and all. And who committed this fraud? By any person within the company, like officer, employee, director, or any person outside the company with the connivance of the person inside the company. That means a director, officer, member, employee might have joined hands with the outsider and colluded with him with the connivance of that person, and they committed this fraud. Okay, committed, that is what the point number three. Committed by any person or any other person with the connivance in any manner. Okay, either a person within the company or joining hands with the outside the person outside the company. Okay, and the fourth point, the intent to deceive. This is very important. This you should mention in the examination, because whatever you do, the intent to deceive or gain undue advantage of it. For example, I posted a wrong journal entry. Okay, my intention is not to deceive anyone. It is just a mistake happened. Out of 100 entries, I posted one incorrect entry. That itself doesn't become a fraud. It is just an error. Okay, if my intention to post that entry is to deceive any member, creditor, or the company or the public at large, then I will be committed to the fraud, and the charges will be levied under this section. So the intent is more important. With intent to deceive or to gain undue advantage or injuries to public interest to the members, creditors, and public at large. Okay, whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss. Sometimes it is very difficult to identify how much is the financial advantage gained by the person who committed this fraud. The advantage maybe will come after 1 year, after 3 years also. There is no financial advantage as of now, and every fraud may not happen for the financial advantage only. There will be to get some position and to get some other, not exactly directly linked with the financials. So that's the reason why they included this point also. Whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss, maybe it is not currently. It may this financial advantage will be happen after 1 year, after 3 years also. That's the reason why they included this point also. Okay, what is fraud? Fraud in relation to in relation to the company or any body corporate. This includes any act, omission, concealment, abuse of position, etc., and committed by the person or by any person outside the company with the convenience in any manner, with intent to deceive. Intent to deceive or to gain undue advantage, injury to the interest of the creditors, members, shareholders, or any other person. And finally, whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss. Hmm? Now we came across another 2 points, another two definitions. What is called this wrongful gain and wrongful loss. What is meant by wrongful gain? If I did a business, I got some profit. That is a lawful profit. And now I will ask you, what is wrongful gain? If somebody does a business illegally, that is illegal gain. That is a wrongful gain. Simple. That is the definition. It means a gain by unlawful means is a wrongful gain. Similarly, loss by unlawful means is a wrongful loss. Simple definition. These two are you can go through. Very very simple. And the fraud definition is very very important compared with the out of these three. And go through once. There is a question also from your this study material that explain the meaning of fraud in relation to the affairs of the company. Punishment under section 447. Just we have discussed about the fraud definition. That fraud definition you have to mention here. In addition to that, you need to mention the wrongful loss and wrongful gain as well. Okay. And punishment also they have asked. You have to write an entire section 447 for the answer to this question. Fraud definition as well as the what is the punishment penalty provisions also you need to mention for this answer to this question. Okay. Now we will moving on to the section 450, which is very very simple section compared with section 447. There is no complication here. We can finish it in 1 minute. What is section 440 450? Sometimes there might be a contravention, there might be a violation of the Companies Act, but there is no specific penalty available. In those cases, the culprit will easily escape from the law, right? To safeguard the interest, what Companies Act lawmakers did is they introduced section 450. In case of any miss, if there is no specific penalty provision was available in the entire Companies Act or the rules, then this section 450 will come into the safeguard of the same. And so for this reason, this section 450 was introduced. What is section 450 applicability? This penalty provision applies only in cases where there is no specific penalty or punishment is available in the elsewhere in the act. In the Companies Act doesn't contain any specific penalty provisions for the act of violation. This will come into the picture. Section 450 will come into the picture. I given an explanation here, like for example, any contravention of any rule and exception, approval, direction, sanction. If there is any case of any violation, then this section 450 will be applicable, provided if there is no specific penalty available in that particular section or rule. Okay, what is the penalty here? Penalty may be extended up to 10,000 rupees. Penalty may extend up to 10,000 rupees. And if the penalty, if the default or the contravention or the violation is a continuing in nature, then the additional penalty of 1,000 rupees per day may extend up to 1,000 rupees per day. That is, the maximum is 1,000 per day. Extend up to 1,000. This was there till earlier. Now, what is the amendment in this section? In amendment in this section is they introduced a maximum ceiling limit for this continuing contravention. And if you see this revised provision here, contravention is a continuing nature. The penalty will be extended to 1,000 per day, subject to a maximum of 2 lakhs in case of a company, 50,000 in case of an officer in default or any other person. This is the amendment. This red color font is an amendment, and subject to a maximum of 2 lakhs. This continuing nature cannot be extended till forever. If it is reaches a amount up to 2 lakhs in case of a company, then the penalty will be stopped. And similarly, in case of a officer and default, the maximum penalty which is continuing in nature stopped at a 50,000 INR 50,000. Okay, let's quickly revise this penalty provision. What is the penalty under section 450? Penalty under section 450 maximum extend up to 10,000 rupees. Okay, that is first thing. In case of a continuous contravention, the kind of violation which is a continuing in nature, then the additional penalty will may extend up to 1,000 per day, subject to a maximum ceiling of 2 lakhs in case of a company and 50,000 in case of a officer in default. There is an amendment here. There is more chances of getting into the examination. Section 450. This is about section 447 and section 450. I hope you like this and you enjoyed this lecture. Please share, subscribe, and share it with all of your friends, whoever is facing difficulty in these penalty provisions. Okay, happy reading. All the best. And if in case if you face any challenges, you can call me to this number. This is my Facebook page. You can like the page, and this is my channel. Please subscribe. Okay, all the very best, students. Thank you so much. Bye.